Sugar Coated. I'm your host, Adrienne Garland, the CEO and founder of She Leads Media. For far too long, women have been conditioned to sugarcoat their words, their actions, and the way they show up in the world, and to conform to certain cultural norms and ideals. This is inherently designed to keep those who are outside of the norm from gaining power, prestige, wealth, and influence, preventing more women from being recognized and respected as the powerful leaders that we truly are. Join me each week as we dive into raw conversations with remarkable, uncompromising, and inspirational women that will encourage you to strip away your sugarcoating and move boldly in the direction of your magnificent dreams. Today's podcast is brought to you by She Leads Live 2023. It's the conference for women entrepreneurs. Join us on December 1st in New York City. Get your tickets today at sheleadsmedia.com. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Sugar Coated. I'm thrilled today to introduce you to my next guest. Her name is St. Rappaport, and she is incredible. I think so many people are going to be able to relate to what she has to tell us. She is the founder of Life Picks University, which she'll tell us what that's all about in a second. And she is also a podcast host of an incredible podcast. St. is a brain engineer, and she works with ADHD entrepreneurs, which when I sort of, saw that, I said, what other kind of entrepreneurs are there? So she works with ADHD entrepreneurs to unleash their potential, to get more done in less time and enjoy their business. So welcome to Sugar Coated St.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you today.
Oh my gosh. When I read your background and everything that you do, I was just so drawn in by it because I'm sort of not even kidding. So many entrepreneurs that I meet, I mean, whether they're, formally diagnosed or they just kind of throw the term around, we all sort of say like, oh my gosh, I feel like I have ADHD. I feel like it's something that I, kind of created for myself in my life. I created a lot of chaos, and being an entrepreneur, you definitely need to be dealing with this chaos, but at a certain point, it definitely becomes a little debilitating. So I would love to, kind of hear your story. How did you develop Life Picks University? Where did that all come from? And then what do you do to help people?
Yeah. So my story starts back in 5th grade when I was struggling with reading, actually. And I've been going to endless amounts of tutors. My parents were spending endless amounts of money, and it just was getting nowhere. So they're like, okay, it's time to do something else. So they brought in what's called 4-year STEAM mediators, essentially the official title for a brain engineer. And what they did was we worked nothing reading related. All these years that I've been going to reading tutor, that was put to the side. And instead I worked on how my brain was actually thinking, how my brain was taking in and processing information. And the result of that, my reading improved, but also every single other area of my life improved. Every area, academically, socially, everything improved. That I knew at that age of 5th grade that I wanted to go and learn this. But I didn't realize at that point that it was actually going to be my whole entire life.
I love this. Yeah, I feel like even just in that little intro, and I can't wait to dive into this more, but it's so interesting the way that the education system is. And it's not because they don't want to help people, but I love how your parents were wise enough to say, let's, the reading and, the struggling with the reading, it's a symptom, right? And then to be able to say, let's treat this person as an individual and let's see how, she is processing information, and then let's work from there. That is almost like, that's like the scientific approach, which is so amazing. And the education system is so focused on just getting everybody, in line, in that box, marching to the same beat. And it does such a disservice to so many people that are incredibly brilliant, just in a different way than what the education system wants us to be.
Yeah. That is like so well said. And as people with ADHD, like I'm sure you could relate of like how your brain like would think differently, but it's not measured in that way. Like I saw a really good picture recently of like it's a row of kids lining up, and the teacher is measuring like how tall they have their tower. Based on how tall their tower is, then like that's the mark that they get. And there's one person whose tower is really, really low, but it's not a simple straight tower. It's a massive castle. And even though it's low, it's a castle, and it's way more pretty than all the other ones. But because the teacher is measuring everyone in one way of like the height, and so I feel you. Anyone who's been in school like that.
Yeah. And it's frustrating because it sets you up into an emotion. It moves from the learning, the cognitive, into an emotional place where we start to feel really bad about ourselves. And then that puts up a wall, right? And we start to think that we're dumb. And that is such a bad place to be operating from. And then these really creative people that just see things in a different way sometimes go down a path that's not the healthiest for them. And it's only later in life, like after a lot of suffering, that they come to realize, hey, my brain is actually incredible. It's just that it's different. And so how did you sort of move on from fifth grade and, work your way through school, obviously, to become a brain engineer? What was that whole process like?
Yeah, I'm just gonna say that like I didn't really make it through school. I took my GED after 10th grade and just like went to study in England for 2 years. That's how much I hated school.
Wow.
So, but at the age of 17, I did start this training of working on the brain. I started the training, the 4C method that works on how your brain is thinking. Now, this is a few year process. During the process, like I was doing all these other things, I had a photography business, a bunch of other things. But one day I also took a Tony Robbins course, a course called Rapid Planning Method. And essentially it's planning based on your motivation instead of your to-do list. It's really cool. And it's essentially, instead of saying like, oh, I have to answer my emails and do my laundry, it's like, what's your motives? What do you want to be in 6 months, a year time? And based on that, you create your actions and your list of what you're going to do today. And I found it really interesting, but no matter how hard I tried, I could not do it. I did all the exercises, I understood the concepts, but like when it actually came like practical, I just couldn't do it. So I was like, you know what? Okay, this is just not for me. Another one of those things that we have in school and we just say it's just not for me. A few months later, I took another training in this 4C method that worked specifically on the thinking skill called categorizations. We have 28 thinking skills, and this thinking skill is called categorizations. Now, categorizing on a basic level is right. Like if I give you a bag of marbles, can you split it according to size or color or whatever? But as you becomes more abstract, it becomes a bit more challenging. What happens if I have a bunch of tasks and I have to group them together to create groups that way you're working in an efficient way? Yeah. And part of this thinking skill actually allows you to think 6 months, a year ahead. During this training is when I improved that my own thinking skill of this categorizations, that all of a sudden I was like, hey, all I need to do is X, Y, Z, and I can do Tony's program. All I need to do is X, Y, and Z, and I can triple my business. And that was literally what I did. If I make a few adjustments, I save over 10 hours every single week because that thinking skill was weak. The foundation and how my brain was thinking was weak. And as soon as it improved it, all of a sudden my brain was able to make connections with other things that I've learned previously, and just like the rest of my brain that I was able to, like my life literally exploded. Wow. That was when I was like, adult to me, this also.
Yeah, this is incredible. So you said that there were, I guess, 28 different types of categorizations. I can't even say it.
20, I'm just going to clarify that. There's 28 thinking skills.
Thinking skills. Okay.
28 thinking skills called cognitive functions.
Okay.
One of the 28 thinking skills is categorizations.
Understood. So that was the area that you were weak and that you improved, and that dramatically, exponentially improved your life, your business, all of it. So interesting.
Yeah.
So other people who have ADHD might have weakness in one of these other 28 cognitive thinking areas.
Yeah. People with ADHD actually tend to struggle with similar thinking skills as other people with ADHD.
That is so, so cool. So with Life Picks University, how do you sort of assess those areas of weakness in people, and how do you get them to strengthen those areas so that they too can have these incredible results?
Yeah, so there is an official assessment I could do, but it takes 20 hours just to do the write-up. So I don't like to do it.
Wow.
So I've created a free assessment. It is not as accurate, but it gives you a very good baseline for someone to like figure out where they are at with each one of those thinking skills. And anyone listening to this can take it at lifepicksuniversity.com/brain. It's LifePicks PIX. And essentially just goes through the 28 thinking skills. And it shows you what it looks like when the thinking skill is weak and what it looks like when the thinking skill is strong. And then you just mark off on a scale from 1 to 5 where you are at with each one of those thinking skills. And the reason why it's on a scale is because there's no such a thing as being perfect at a thinking skill. You can always be improving your thinking skill more and making your life even better. So even though all these years ago, I've improved that categorizations and I've dramatically improved my life. Till today, I work on that thinking skill and it makes my life easier and better every single time that I take that thinking skill to the next level. So that's like how we assess. Now, to answer how we work on it, essentially you want to do very specific exercises to improve the thinking skill that you want to work on. I could give you an example if you want one.
Yeah.
When I work with clients, then we do brain exercises like a pencil and paper brain exercise, literally they look like fun sheets that were created to work on your brain. But if you know of a thinking skill that you want to work on, you can just do like exercises at home. So if you want an example, I could share that.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to share this one because it's one that a lot of people with ADHD struggle with. It's very interesting. If you ever walk into a room that is super messy and you know you need to organize that room, but instead of cleaning that room, you just go out and close the door because it's too messy for you to look at. Or if you come back from vacation and you have like about 500 emails that you need to answer and you get overwhelmed by all those emails that you need to answer so you don't respond to any, you're probably struggling with the thinking skill of clear perception, or when it's weak, it's called blurred perception. Clear perception is how we take in information in a clear and organized way. And hopefully you're listening to this podcast and it's coming in a clear and organized way. But when it is overwhelming, there's a lot of information. Can your brain still take in all that lot of information in a clear and organized way? The stronger this thinking skill is, the more information your brain could handle and it will still come in clearly and organized. So what do you do if this is you? You walk into that room and it's too messy and you need to get it clean, right? So we take in information through our 5 senses. It's through our 5 senses that we have clear perception. So essentially what you want to do is you want to go through each one of the 5 senses and just say, what do I see? And list out a bunch of things you see. What do you hear? List out a bunch of things you hear, taste, etc. Go through all the 5 senses. Now what happens is you are now forcing your brain to calm down. By you having to say it out loud and saying, I see laundry, I see garbage, I see towels, things like that, it is coming into your brain in a clear and organized way instead of just a mush of things. If you do this enough times, eventually your brain will do it automatically by yourself. And now instead of being overwhelmed, your brain can see everything in a clear and organized way. Then all you got to do is just make a starting point. Okay, what's my starting point? What's the first thing I need to do? I should probably pick up the garbage, and you pick up all the garbage. What's the next thing I need to do? And you just work like that.
Oh, I love this. It makes so much sense too. And I especially love the example of a messy room, because at first I was thinking, well, you can see the mess, but if you think about it a little bit more with the garbage, you probably can smell the garbage, or if there's like food laying around or something like that. And you can say, wow, like that's something that has to be done first so that I can even get in there and not feel sick to my stomach as I'm like cleaning the room. So like get the garbage out first and then you're so right. It's like that's how you like chop down the tree, right? It's like cut the
Yeah.
branches first and then make it so that you can see what you're doing and then you can start your chopping. So I love this so much. And I think that as entrepreneurs, whether it's classified as ADHD or not, it's just a way to be able to, I guess, maybe gain a little bit more control over what it is that you're doing in your business, because it is overwhelming. Oh my God.
Oh, yeah. I completely agree with you. And like you said, like, I don't care for labels of ADHD. Like, really not. I just use that term because people know what we're talking about when we say ADHD. But essentially, you want to understand like how your brain is thinking and improve that, improve those skills so that way it's easier.
Yeah, and there's so many books and resources out there that talk about neuroscience and the fact that you can retrain your brain. So is there an element of, like I said early on, how, I almost feel like I did this to myself, right? Like so much to do, doing multiple things all at once. It's now become like almost this weird, like habitual way of behaving that is now starting. It was helpful, and now it's going over into the realm of harmful because I take on way more than I'm actually able to accomplish.
So that's a super common thing, actually. Like you said, with people with ADHD, we not even ADHD. I meant people with entrepreneurs. As entrepreneurs, we like just take on tons because like we jump into opportunity, we take action. Like we know, like these are the things that like make the world, like go for it. But sometimes it is due to not always, but often it's due to a weak thinking skill that is causing us to think we can do too much. And we're like, oh yeah, I can just fit everything without understanding reality, which is literally one of the thinking skills, understanding reality and understanding what is possible in the time frame and what is allowed. But I will also add, I don't like to like limit things and say like, oh, because of that, you can't do your goals or your dreams. Like I'm massive, like accomplish everything you want. I think you then have to simply approach it a different way. So one of the big questions I like to use is saying, this would be impossible unless. So you stick in your massive goal of whatever you want to do. You want to like triple your business in 2024. And then you say like, I want to triple my business in 2024. It's going to be impossible unless what? Unless who do I hire? What coaches do I take into my life? Things like that. And all of a sudden your brain is going to start thinking on a much bigger level. And then it will be possible. So it is like a self-awareness of like, is this coming from because like I just want to say yes to everything, but like really it's like hindering me from things? Or is it because I'm just being overwhelmed by this and so it's like taking much longer than it needs to and things like that?
Yeah, the overwhelm puts your brain in a place of shutting down the possibilities, probably to protect itself, right?
Yeah.
Versus what you just said. And there's another book, I've actually mentioned it on this podcast a couple of times because I've listened to it somewhat recently, fairly recently. It's called Who, Not How. So have you heard about this book?
Yeah. Dan Sullivan does amazing books. 10X is better than 2X. I think that's what it's called.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah. And so the who, not how, it instead of asking, how can I do this? The question is, who can help me to achieve this big goal? And all of a sudden, when you ask that, it's a very nuanced shift in the question. It almost unlocks your brain into different areas of possibility. And then things do become much more realistic or possible. And so I love this idea. And we do need to have the tools, because I even heard something the other day too, like it. And I don't necessarily think I like this term, but it was in the context of addiction. But, a broken brain can't a broken brain can't, fix itself. If you are the person that almost has like the broken brain, you're not going to be able to fix yourself. You need someone else to help, to show you, and then you can heal your brain to help get you through it. But if you're asking the questions of a brain that doesn't know how to, or that's weak in a certain area, you're not going to get the answers. So it's like, that's why these tools are so important.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just going to expand on what you just said. We operate based on our strong and weak thinking skills, based on these 28 strong, weak thinking skills. So all your questions that you're asking yourself, all the answers that you're asking yourself is based on those strong, weak thinking skills. That's why it's really cool when you have a team and different people have different strong, weak thinking skills. So that way, different people will be able to ask different questions, be able to challenge the situation, and you can really take it to the next level. And at the same time, also like what you're saying about there's a person on the outside there, like you have this guide, is just proof of how like where you are now is not where you have to stay forever. So if you feel your brain is broken, you feel you're always overwhelmed, you feel like I'm just like never on time and I just can't do those things, it simply means that if there's a skill there that your brain hasn't learned yet, as soon as you learn that skill, it will be a lot easier for you.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. And it shifts us out of this place of shame, which is also like something that shuts us down. And, the more that you're talking, I also can't help but think that, as women entrepreneurs, first of all, as women, there's this societal pressure to also not ask for help, to do it all. Right? So forget about our brains. We are like programmed since we're young to just kind of take care of ourselves, not rock the boat, stay quiet, do what you're told. And that in and of itself is overwhelming, because when we start businesses, we think that we do have to do everything. We can't ask anybody for help because then we don't look like good entrepreneurs. Like we can't hack it, So there's so many different layers. It's like, yeah, there's the thinking skills, but then there's the societal, programming and pressures that we have. And it's even more heavy. So, like to kind of just give a message out there to all the women entrepreneurs, it's almost like, it's more important than ever that when you start a business, that you surround yourself with people that think about things in a different way and that give you permission to get help.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm completely agreeing with you on that. I will say personally, I found for myself, surrounding myself with people, like very consciously making sure to surround myself with people who are one or like two steps ahead of me, but not like 100 steps ahead of me. I mean, like I would listen to those people that are 100 steps of me, like listen to their audiobooks and their podcasts and things like that. But when I'm actually asking for practical advice, you want people who are just one or two steps ahead of you, because that way they've just done it. They've done it 6 months ago. They didn't do it 3 years ago or 5 years ago, where it's like their advice isn't as relevant anymore. They may still have like genius business advice, but it's not like as when it gets very tactical, it doesn't help as much. So having those people who are 1-2 steps ahead of you, they'll actually be able to help you. And also it makes it a little bit more tangible. It's much easier to say like, oh, like it makes sense that I'm going to get to that step that's one ahead of me and not like 100 steps ahead of me.
That's such great advice too. And so many, I said before we started recording that She Leads Media, we produce conferences for, women entrepreneurs and leaders. And one of the reasons that we started doing the conference in the way that we do it is exactly what you just said. So I would attend conferences and see, Oprah Winfrey or Tory Burch up there, Sarah Blakely, and, be so inspired, and then leave and say to myself, wow, like they're so far away from where I am. I don't even know the first step to take to even get close to there. So the conference that we developed was all about putting people on stage that, yes, they're inspirational and they've had success, but they've also, had bumps along the road, and they can give this really practical, actionable advice. And I never even thought of it in the like they're one or two steps ahead, but that's exactly where they are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but not 100.
Right, exactly. I love the 100 for like the big inspiration, and it helps your brain think bigger, but not for the practical.
Yes. You almost want to see like, oh, that's possible.
Right.
That I can get there. Fine. Now let me look at the people that are, 5, 4, 3 steps ahead. And that's the first step. And I like the fact that that's always also moving. It creates the momentum because someone, and it doesn't always have to be the same person, someone's always the next step. So it gives you almost like the map to keep moving with.
Literally.
Yeah.
Map is like a very good way of putting it.
Yeah, I love this so much. I'm actually curious for your business. You said that, once you sort of improved this area of thinking, that your business tripled. What about that do you think was the catalyst for that change? Was it just that like, oh, all of a sudden you saw things that you didn't see before? I'm just curious for, people in the audience that are listening, like what happened?
Yeah, it's literally these minute things. And now looking back, it sounds crazy, but maybe people listening could try to see how it relates to them and their own business. So at that time, I was working only one-on-one with clients. And I have tons of people who told me that you need to do it in groups. People around the world do this in classrooms of 30 people. And like, that's just like, that's how you need to do it. Or else like, you're just going to be doing one-on-ones all day. And I was like, no, as soon as you go out of the one-on-one, you're missing like the customization, you're missing making sure everybody's getting exactly what they need. And that was the end of it. And so I was like, no, I'm not willing to give that up. It's not worth it. As soon as I finished this training, I literally thought of like a bunch of ideas of tiny adjustments that I need to make so that way I can still do it in groups and give everyone their customization. So for example, we now do, and there's been many variations like along the way, but this is like where we're at now. We have, we do it in groups of 6. So it's groups, but they're still small groups. But majority of the time, everyone is split out into breakout rooms in their solo breakout room by themselves. And they're doing these brain exercises by themselves in their own room. And I rotate through the rooms to give everyone their own personal advice. So we have the group and everyone loves the community of the group and everyone becomes friends afterwards and they stay friends for a while they also get the 100% customization inside. They have their own conversations that they want, that they need, and helping them move specifically forward in the way they need to move. And yes, technically somebody could have told that to me, but by not just getting like advice on how to do it, but by improving my brain and being able to come up with those ideas, there was like many of those pieces that today we have like an incredible program while also making a whole lot more money.
I love this so much. And again, it's like, I feel like so much of what you're talking about can apply just in general. It's sort of like you have to be able to think through what that, like you wanted to provide people with a really personalized experience. And so your brain, when you thought of groups, you thought, how can I ever personalize in a group? It's just not going to be the same. So yes, logically, I understand the more people you serve, the more money you can make. Fine, but it's going to lose something. It's going to lose that special sauce. And so you needed to figure out, how can I keep the special sauce and also bring more people into it. And it's hard when you think in that binary way, either group or personal. You were able to see, wait a minute, there is a compromise, a meshing of this. And I love what you came up with, because I do think that people tend to go toward the like from one-on-one to big groups. And it's like something does get lost. It does.
Yeah.
So the fact that you were like, well, let me keep this small, you probably figured out how to maybe be a little bit more efficient with it so that you could provide this individualized attention. So smart. And I mean, I think that even just that advice, forget about like improving your thinking, right? That advice, that like structure of that is an option for women that are working one-on-one. This is another option for you to think about. How could I potentially do something like that as well? Because you want to maintain the heart of it.
Yeah.
I love that so much. I love that example. Thank you so much for sharing that. And also just thank you so much for doing the work that you do, because I think that there is something else that women entrepreneurs need that is so different from a lot of that entrepreneurial advice that's out there that sometimes comes at us like really hard, like from, I don't want to characterize, but like some of the bros, like just do this and set this up and do that. And it's like, I don't even, like, I don't think like that. I don't talk like that. I'm not like that. And so it doesn't resonate with me. So we need more people like you in the world. P.S.
Oh, thank you.
I love it. And I also love that you did not follow a traditional path, and yet here you are. You have a business of your very own that is successful. You're doing things that you love and you're helping people. And that to me is also something that we need to see more of, and I especially with like some of the younger people that I teach, they think that there's just one path to success, and that's bullshit. There is not just one path to success. There's a multitude of paths to success, just like all human beings are individual.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how can people get in touch with you, join your group program, your very personalized group program, and just, connect with you in general?
Yeah. So everywhere you look, Life Picks University. So whatever your social is, websites, Life Picks. So Life, P-I-X University.
I love that so much, ST. Thank you so much for spending your time with all of us here at Sugar Coated today. And keep me posted. I hope that people reach out to you, because I know I've got a lot of ADHDers in the audience.
Thank you so much.